What's up guys, this is MugenLord here, and I want to talk a bit about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and my love for this crossover series since the beginning of its conception. What I really want to focus on is this game's roster and aesthetics and what I feel about it so far. If you told me back in 1996 that Cammy will be facing off against Juggernaut from X-Men, I would have called you a liar. My mind couldn't even fathom the thought of Street Fighter going up against X-Men. The term crossover in a video game was so foreign to me at the time, but since then, crossover game announcement has become some of the hypest moments of my life in gaming. What makes crossover so great is the legacy in which these characters that these companies have created throughout gaming history. Each character is a reflection of different eras in gaming, comics, and entertainment that we all grew up in, which is why we enjoy these crossovers and announcements of characters. But what bothers me most about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is its poor excuse of rosters that has been slowly revealed so far. We are pretty much a month away from this game launch and we have yet seen anything exciting in terms of characters. I know some of you would even defend its roster by saying that the older games in the crossover series were nothing more than a copy and paste from other titles. But if you look at X-Men vs. Street Fighter, it was the first of its kind. And yes, Capcom reused assets from Street Fighter Alpha and X-Men Children of Atoms, but they have also given us new additions such as Rogue, Gambit, and Sabretooth. Each crossover game after that had added characters who have yet to appear in a crossover. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was the biggest. It took almost every character from Capcom's 2D fighting history, including a few new characters yet seen in the Versus series period. We were given Cable, Ruby Heart, Sun, Amengo, Miss Trombone, Serverbot, and Hayato from Star Gladiator, or some would call it Plasma Sword. Since their license with Marvel property has concluded, another crossover from these two companies seemed nothing more than a pipe dream. I have found myself giving up on seeing a true successor to one of the greatest crossover fighting games of all time. But then, we were given hope once Marvel and Capcom announced the HD version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And soon after that, we were graced with Marvel vs. Capcom 3. This game was sitting in a pretty good spot in terms of its character roster though. Why you say that? Well, think about it. The last crossover from Marvel and Capcom was Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and during that time, fighting games weren't truly moving over to full 3D. You only had the Tekken series and a few others. Now with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the company decided to take the game's art direction completely to 3D models, which means Capcom could pretty much bring back older characters from the previous titles while incorporating some new characters to the roster if they wanted to. Fans wouldn't mind if Marvel vs. Capcom 3 brought back majority of the old cast, because now their favorite characters are now being reimagined in a 3D environment along with new mechanics added to the game, which would have been pretty much a new game. But then Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 roster weren't the hypest, but it was much better than what we have with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Capcom's side had 7 returning characters recreated in 3D and 18 new characters yet seen in a Versus game. Then there was 15 new characters and 10 returning characters on the Marvel side of the roster. Despite some of the choices Capcom has decided with their side of the roster in this game, it was still pretty much a fresh new take on the series. This roster warranted a purchase of this game, at least with this entry of the series. Capcom had some passion in terms of designing this game. I love the character select screen of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Comic book like graphics and themes really made it feel like characters were ripped right off the comic book pages. I loved every bit of it, but then you look at Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite character select screen and interface, it can't get any more generic than this. I could have made something like this in 5 minutes. No effort whatsoever in the development of this game. What brings me over to this: when this game was announced back in 2016 in December, I couldn't believe that we were getting another Marvel vs. Capcom title this soon. I was all on board for this game, especially when Mega Man X and of course my wifey Miss Marvel had featured in the teaser. The little hints of Infinity Stones were also showing to have some effect on the gameplay, which really got me excited, and it brought me back to a time of the Infinity Stones debut in Marvel Superheroes back in the arcade era. Then news was revealed that Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was going to go back to its roots, which was 2v2, and also some familiarity thrown into the mix. I had so many ideas in terms of returning characters and new characters yet seen from the franchise that Capcom has stored away in their legacy. That's when something suddenly hit me. I don't know why, but I started to worry a bit about this game. At the end of the teaser trailer, it was announced that this game will be released in 2017, and I said to myself, why so soon? This is pretty fast for a versus game such as monumental as Marvel vs. Capcom. Then I thought about it. In order for a game like this to be released this soon, if they pretty much reuse a lot of assets and little to nothing really new in terms of characters. Then another trailer was released and character DLC was already advertised to us. Sigma, who has always been one of the most wanted characters in Marvel vs. Capcom, is going to be locked, away behind a paywall. The characters in the story trailer also revealed that Ultron and Sigma were the main villains of the game, and yet Ultron is part of the base roster and Sigma is locked away as DLC. This news has definitely made me a bit concerned. It made me wonder what other character will be pretty much locked away behind DLC. My hype for this game began to decline as more and more info began to spill out, and then the leaked roster had become the icing on the cake for me. I'm not the one to fall into rumors, but to know that the leaker has been almost spot on with reveals in the past with other Capcom fighters made it hard for me to believe that this game wasn't going to stray too far away from the leak list. I'm not mad at Marvel's side of the roster because I expected their roster to stick close to their Marvel movie universe as much as possible, but the exclusion of the X-Men characters was unexpected, and what makes it worse is when Capcom had Peter Rosas, also known as Combofiend, speak on the lack of X-Men characters in the base roster. And it completely boggled my mind how little Capcom think of its fan base in the Versus series. So here's what Combofiend pretty much had to say, and here's his quotes. If you were to actually think about it, these characters are just functions. They're just doing things. Magneto's case in point is a favorite because he has an 8-way dash and he's really fast, right? Well, guess what? Nova can do the same thing. Captain Marvel can do the same thing. Ultron can do the same thing. Then he goes to say, it's just the functions that people associate the character, and there's no shortage of that. We made sure that all the proper playstyles can be represented with our current roster. I'm like, are you serious? I really wanted to give Combofiend the benefit of the doubt about this statement because he is working with Capcom and it's his job to not make the company that pays him look bad. But in all the efforts, he certainly made things worse. Capcom truly believed that fans who love these characters in the Versus game simply because of how they function. So you're saying players and fans love Magneto because of his 8-way dash. So if he isn't in the game, and if you include a character that functions similar to Magneto, then that should solve the roster selection problem. No, 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 no. Fans don't love this Versus series solely on how characters function. We love these games because we love the characters and their rich history. When a crossover game, regardless of what company is creating one, what is the first thing that comes to mind in terms of anticipation? And I'll give you a few seconds to figure it out. Have you figured it out? Well, that's right. The fans look forward to what characters are going to be in the game, not what functions are going to be in them. We love the characters, but if they happen to have a good moveset along with them, then it's a plus for us. This statement was a complete cop-out for what they really have planned for this game. This current roster so far gives it away. Look at how weak Capcom side is compared to Marvel side. I am willing to play every character on the Marvel side except Doctor Strange and Thor. The Capcom side shouldn't be this disappointing. The only character I would consider playing is my boy Ryu, Chris Redfield, and Mega Man X. This entire roster is copy and paste from Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 with a dash of Mega Man X, Jeddah, Gamora, Captain Marvel, Ultron, and Thanos. If you count the rest of the Elite roster, then there are more returning characters than there are new characters representing both sides. Look at Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The game was pretty much new in terms of variety. When this game was first announced, I was already thinking about franchises that Capcom could pull characters from. No way Capcom's roster should be this embarrassing when you have a franchise such as Breath of Fire, Power Stone, Azura's Wrath, Monster Hunter, Onimusha, Rival Schools, Zack and Wiki, plus more. How could Capcom seriously drop the ball on this one? It makes no sense that Capcom decided not to have any of the most requested characters added to their base roster from these franchises. San Diego Comic-Con revealed a trailer that was very underwhelming. It was a perfect time to reveal characters never yet seen before in the Versus series, or legacy characters like Captain Commando, Jin Saitome, Hayato, Cyclops, Gambit, Juggernaut. The list goes on, and yet We are instead reintroduced to Nemesis and Mike Haggard. Like, what the hell? Who seriously wanted Mike Haggard to return before anyone else, or even Nemesis? Spider-Man was the only wise decision made by Marvel. I think they were pretty much been a riot if he wasn't included in this game. The only conclusion is that if we are going to see any legacy characters or most wanted characters, it's through paid DLC. If that is the case, then Capcom has not learned their lesson at all in terms of their crappy business practices when it comes to sucking money from its fan base. Now, I would be a fool to say that this game just sucks in terms of gameplay and the game isn't fun. The game does have potential in terms of gameplay, and I cannot and will not deny that. From what I've played of the game, the mechanics are sharp, but that's only part of what makes the game great. Presentation is also important as well. And I think Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is going to be a DLC loaded game, and they will sell us a mediocre roster of characters that most people wouldn't even consider purchasing for DLC, while selling us the characters we really want as DLC, especially Black Panther. My skin really boiled when they trolled Black Panther as paid DLC. That's only a preview of what's to come with this game. So, what do you guys think about this game in terms of gameplay, character, roster, and its DLC? Do you think I am completely talking nonsense, or do you feel the same way that I feel with the direction that this game is going with? If you like this video, then make sure you favorite, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more info related to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and other video game related content. This is MugenLord, and I'm signing off.